I'm doing Death vs. Heard, entertainment, pop culture, of course, following Marilyn Manson when I can, and that situation going on with Evan Rachel Wood. This is from Marilyn Manson Uncancelled, and it's called Damning Proof Evan Rachel Wood Never Cooked for Marilyn Manson, Not Even Right After Her Abortion, from November 30th, 2022. Let's see what we got here. So we see a picture of her looking around the frozen food aisle. We'll get to that a little bit later about her cooking skills and when she had them, when she didn't, and if she does at all. In Evan Rachel Wood's documentary Phoenix Rising, she made a new shocking accusation that Marilyn Manson would drug her, repeatedly R-word her in her sleep, and forbade her to use any sort of birth control, which resulted in her getting pregnant and having an abortion. I think forbid would have been easier to read there, but okay, forbid, I think that's what that means. She says that he flew into New York where she was filming Mildred Pierce to be there for the abortion, but was far from caring or supportive. And let's think about that. One thing I love about this article and this website is that you gotta understand that he's thinking critically. He's not just taking certain things at face value and deciding who to believe based on who the person is. You've got to think critically about what people say. If an event really happened, they don't have to have every little last detail. Were my shoelaces tied right or left? Was my sister wearing a pink shirt with stripes or polka dots? You don't have to have every single little detail, but you should have major details. You'll see what I mean. And here's a quote which looks like it's from Wood. He flew out for the abortion. The second it was over, it was like, make me dinner. And I remember being like, I'm supposed to be resting. My body has gone through this trauma. There's aftermath here. He didn't care. What Marilyn Manson Uncancelled points out is the media ran wild with this headline. Evan Rachel Wood says Marilyn Manson made her cook him dinner immediately after losing baby. Read her online. New York Post, Daily Mail, all similar headlines. And more headlines from US Magazine, Insider, The Blaze, Variety, and Mirror, and maybe even more. These are just the ones that he found on his site. Now here's the thing. This is what I really like about it. Now, Evan Rachel Wood said the second after. Now, we don't have to take her literally. Not literally the second after. However, you've got to explain that better for yourself. Of course, no journalist entertained any skepticism of this claim despite its extreme vagueness. Are we to assume that the second after Evan's abortion was complete, a procedure which we can also assume took place in a hospital, Manson right there and then told her to cook him dinner? Right. So, although I guess, playing devil's advocate, as hard as I can, she didn't literally mean the second after, but if she didn't mean that, she shouldn't have said it. She should mean what she says. Her words gotta make sense through and through. So if you want people to believe this who are thinking critically, don't say the second after. Don't say that, because it doesn't make sense. Or are we to assume Manson drove her home first? If he drove her home first, or had driven her home, then that's not the second after. So how are we to exactly calculate and interpret what second actually means? If it's not a literal second, then it could have been many hours or even a day or two later, which Evan interpreted as being too soon and merely summarized as the second. And not only is the timing of when this cooking took place vague, but the details of what she cooked is even more vague. Are we to assume she cooked him an appetizer, an entree with 2 sides and dessert, or did she open a can of soup and heat it up in the microwave? Well, if it's metal, don't put a can in the microwave, but alright. The way she mentions it in the documentary, we as viewers assume Manson was demanding at least a full dinner from her that required some labor in the kitchen. Exactly. I mean, she tries to make it sound like it was some kind of stressful, time-consuming cooking she had to do. But honestly, what it is somewhat beside the point. The point is, she said a second after, and those words are very vague and shouldn't be taken as fact. Not when you think about it. And then here, we get the info that Marilyn Manson had a friend who says Marilyn was supportive and makes the claim that the baby was not even Manson's. And that's something We'll never know. So, whether you're for wood or against wood, that information should not be taken as fact by you. You've got to know when to omit things. And a lot of times, once you omit all the things you can't ever know for sure, you're not left with much except the allegations. That's the problem. And it continues on with what the friend said. He also revealed that Manson ordered room service for everyone, which was basically a steak dinner, while Evan is the one who voluntarily called her own personal drug dealer to deliver the drugs they indulged in that evening. It is likely in reaction to this information by Manson, who is Marilyn Manson's friend, with whom Evan remained friends for a few years after she and Manson separated, that she decided to include her own version of the abortion story in her documentary. So yeah, to me, this is just to me, my opinion, being that Marilyn Manson at that time was at a pretty high peak in his career, it would make sense he bought dinner for everybody. That seems like something a rock star or a rich person would do. What doesn't make sense is that they'd be together and he'd be like, make me dinner. It just doesn't feel like something that would happen. But again, how do we know for sure? We don't. But I'll go with the assumption that I would assume to be the norm, which is the rock star buying people dinner. Throughout the documentary, Evan tries to paint an image of Marilyn Manson as an evil and monstrous cult leader. So, what is more monstrous than forcing his fiancée to get impregnated, then have an abortion, and for a cherry on top to force her to cook him dinner as soon as the abortion was over without giving her a moment to rest and heal? Sorry, man. I don't know. Like, it seems like if you want to make up something terrible about someone, you say this. There is a major issue with this story, however. We know for a fact that Evan didn't know how to cook. Here we go. Not only do we know she could not cook, but she knew she didn't even know her way around the kitchen when this incident took place in June of 2010. How do we know this? She told us in October of 2011 in an interview with the British online newspaper The Independent that was published on October 31st, 2011. We read the following description of Evan Rachel Wood. She's a tiny elven presence, even if she does claim that she can't resist loading up on the carbs, potatoes, and bread and pasta and all of that. Not that she is much of a cook. Right now, I can defrost is her own summation of her skills in the kitchen. So she says in 2011 that she didn't know how to cook. So it kind of seems like she made this story up and forgot. She said she didn't know how to cook, which happens a lot. Okay? So if you're sitting there like, I don't know, I gotta say there's so many women against Marilyn Manson and how could they all be lying? Well, look at what they say and compare it to other things they said, and especially Evan Rachel Wood and the more famous accusers, and you'll find there's so many contradictions and holes in their story, you gotta be uncomfortable believing it. You can't be a logical thinking person and find so many holes and lies in a story and just be like, well, no, there's so many women. Just think about it critically. Yes, you read that right. Evan just admitted well over a year after her abortion that her skills in the kitchen consisted of nothing more than being able to take food out of the freezer and defrost it, which is about where I am now in my 40s. I try to learn, but I just can't. I think if you just can't cook, you can't cook. I guess I could put more effort in it. Who knows, but sounds like me. And wait, there's even more, because this site here does not miss details. In fact, the first time we ever read about Evan cooking, when she proudly says in an interview that she did it after getting married and having a baby. See the photo above of Evan shopping at Whole Foods just weeks after giving birth, which was the first picture in this video. But the only proof we have is from November 24th, 2017, way after the story was taking place, when Evan posted the photo below on Instagram with the following description. My brother caught me basting the turkey first thing in the morning in my pajamas. Happy Thanksgiving. If you want to acknowledge basting a turkey as cooking, then this is the first and only proof we have that Evan actually did cook something. Right. So she didn't actually say she cooked it. I guess basted it is like putting that little layer of sauce or whatever on top, not actually cooking it. However, before she was married to Jamie Bell, October 30th, 2012, and had a baby, July 29, 2013, not only is there no talk or proof of Evan being domesticated to the point of cooking, but she herself clearly acknowledges that before October 2011, she had absolutely no idea how to cook anything, and we've even got dates right here. And it ends with this. To further confirm that Evan never cooked while she was with Manson, we have testimonies of friends and assistants of Manson, including someone who lived in the same house with Manson and Evan for a while, that not only did Evan never cook for Manson as far as they knew at the time and from what they have been told by Manson since the documentary was released, but often the only thing Evan ever had in the refrigerator were things like yogurt and her acne medication, Accutane, which requires the use of birth control to avoid pregnancy while taking it. We can therefore now confidently acknowledge the fact that Evan's allegation of Manson forcing Evan to cook for him after her abortion or any other time in their relationship has been debunked. Evan may try to play mental and verbal gymnastics to talk herself out of this damning evidence, as she commonly does, but it would be in vain to do so. And here's the picture we were just talking about. You let me know what you think down below. Gotta give a big shout out to Malin Manson Uncancelled. He's on Twitter as well. His name's John. Pretty nice guy. And a lot of times his articles are so long, I just can't quite get to it. But this one, well, obviously I got to it. If you're not subscribed here, consider it. And if you don't consider it and don't subscribe, I'll be pretty sad about it. But I'll get over it. Done here for now. See you next time.